Hi, today is February the 6th of 2022. I'm Laurel Smith. I'm in the microbiology class for Bio 225 and I am on week 5. Yay! We're going to be doing lab 8 and we'll be doing the microchemical testing for microbial identification, carbonate, fermentation testing. And here is my paper that has all my information. And I have my 6 labeled phenol red tubes. My first one is number 1, glucose, Staph cerevisiae, which is yeast. I have my number 1, glucose, Staph epidermis. I have my powder of my glucose. I have my next 2 tubes of fructose, Staph epidermis. And I have number 2 test tube fructose, Staph cerevisiae, which is yeast. And here is the fructose powder. I have my test tube number 3 of the mannitol for Staph epidermis. And I have my number 3 mannitol Staph cerevisiae, which is yeast. I will remove my my caps from the Staph cerevisiae number 1 vial and pass it over the fire, which is here, to sterilize, and then I will carefully transfer the glucose powder to the vial, adding the glucose powder to both broth vials. So we're going to start with the glucose first. I'm going to remove my top on all of them and sterilize carefully, making for sure I do not spill. Okay, so I sterilize the glucose powder. I'm now going to sterilize number 1 glucose of the Staph epidermis. And I'm going to do the same on the number 1 glucose Staph cerevisiae, which is yeast. I'm going to take the powder and place it in the epidermis of the glucose. Okay, and I have it all out. I'm going to sterilize both my tubes of the glucose Staph epidermis and place the cap back on. And I'm going to do the same for the Staph cerevisiae glucose number 1. I'm going to do the same for the fructose powder, sterilizing. And now I have my number 2 test tubes of fructose cerevisiae, and I'm going to sterilize as well. And I'm going to sterilize the number 2 fructose Staph epidermis. And I'm going to carefully place the powder fructose into my number 2 Staph epidermis and Staph cerevisiae vials. And the powder is not moving from these, so I'm going to take my pipette that's in alcohol, and I'm going to try to, looks like it's sticking. I'm going to kind of scrape it to get the powder to be able to move. I'm going to place my pipette back in the alcohol. I'm going to sterilize this one more time, the fructose powder, only because I had to get the powder to be able to move because it was stuck on the vial. And I'm going to place the powder of fructose in both vials. So I placed the powder in the number 2 fructose Staph epidermis and also the Staph cerevisiae. I'm going to I'm going to sanitize both of them and put the top back on. I'm moving on to my powder of my mannitol. I'm just going to make for sure that this one is not stuck together. And then I'm going to sterilize all 3 of them. So I'm going to sterilize the powder first of the mannitol, and then the test tubes of the Staph cerevisiae and the Staph epidermis. And you can see that I am sterilizing them correctly because they're black at the top, where before they were clear. So I'm going to place powder in the vials for the mannitol. And I'm going to sterilize the mannitol number 3 of the Staph cerevisiae and the Staph epidermis, and place the lid back on. And I will discard all the powder vials later. And then I'm going to shake. I did that. Okay. And then I'm going to take the Durham tubes where I had placed them in alcohol before starting. And I'm going to place them all in my open valves of the broth valves going downward. So the opening of the Durham tubes, which is here, will be placed down in all my test tube broth vials. So I'm removing my tops again on all my number 1, number 2, and number 3 what is it called? Fentanyl broth vials. Opening, going down, sterilize, put the top back on. I'm starting off with the glucose first. I'll be doing this to all of them. I'm moving on to my fructose valves of the staph epidermis and the staph cerevisiae. And I'll be placing the Durham tubes with the opening going in first to all the valves. Moving on to my number 3 mantle, staph epidermis and staph epidermis and cerevisiae. Sorry, I just repeated myself. Okay. They're in all of the 6 broth vials. And I will be removing my lid for the staph cerevisiae culture with this yeast. I'll be right back. And here is my staph cerevisiae, which is my yeast. And I will be transferring 4 drops of my active staph cerevisiae culture into my fentanyl red tubes labeled the same, staph cerevisiae. We're going to sterilize my active culture of my staph cerevisiae and again of my fentanyl staph cerevisiae red broth. I'm going to insert my clean pipette into my active cerevisiae and place 4 drops. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to sterilize again and place the cap on my active cerevisiae. Just spelled that. And I'm going to do the epidermis. Sorry. No. That is that. Am I doing this to all of them? Okay. So I'm placing the yeast in my cerevisiae tubes. I need to sterilize again. going to place 4 drops. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sterilize. This is my glucose Staph cerevisiae. Keep doing that. Sorry. And I'm going to sterilize my yeast cerevisiae. My active yeast cerevisiae. And I'm going to place my pipette back into my alcohol. And now I'm going to do my active Staph epidermis and place it in my glucose Staph epidermis, my fructose epidermis. Okay, got my clean pipette. Okay. Going to clean or sterilize, excuse me. And place 4 drops. Sterilize. Place the lid back on. I'm going to do this with all the same for the fentanyl Reb test tubes. 4 drops after sterilization. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to do the same for the Mantanol Staph epidermis. Sterilize. Place 4 drops. I still have some in my pipette of the Staph epidermis. I'm going to place my lid back on, and I'm going to place my pipette into my alcohol. And I'm sterilizing also my active Staph epidermis, and I'm going to place the lid back on as well. And I'm just going to place my Staph cerevisiae yeast into my mantle Staph, my Staph cerevisiae. Okay. 4 drops. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Sterilizing. And then now I will let all 6 of my my 6 of my fentanyl red tubes incubate for 12 hours. And then I'll place my active Staph epidermis and my Staph cerevisiae back into my refrigerator. And I will come back and give you my results of my 6 Staph epidermis and Staph cerevisiae fentanyl red tubes that were labeled number 1, number 2, and number 3. Thank you so much.